Today Dong Fu invites you to listen to the Dhammapada, one of the Dharma of Buddha Shakyamuni, the 49th verse from the Buddhist scriptures on the YouTube channel TIong in the USA. As a bee gathers honey from the flower without injuring its color or fragrance, even so the sage should go on his alms round in the village. This verse is short, yet like a drop of nectar from the Buddha's heart. It contains a boundless ocean of meaning. In the image of the bee visiting the flower, the Buddha has given us a complete picture of how a practitioner should live in this world, how to take what is needed, how to bring benefit, and yet never cause harm. In nature, the bee comes to the flower gently. It does not rip the petals. It does not steal the fragrance. It simply gathers the sweet nectar, then departs quietly. The flower remains intact, beautiful, fragrant, continuing to shine in the sunlight. This is the way of the sage, to live among people, to take only what is necessary for the body and practice, and to leave behind no injury in the hearts of others. The Buddha's teaching here is not just for monks going on alms rounds. It is for all of us who live in this world. We all go into the village of life every day, meeting people, receiving help, making connections, using the earth's resources, eating food, breathing air, wearing clothes made by the labor of others. In every action we are taking from the world, the question is, do we take like the bee, or do we take in ways that harm the color and fragrance of life? The bee teaches us that it is possible to live and nourish ourselves without damaging beauty, without breaking harmony, without leaving scars. The sage, in the same way, moves through the world with mindfulness and compassion. The sage's alms round is not only a journey to find food, it is a journey to bring peace, a journey to remind people of the Dharma, a journey to plant seeds of goodness. Wherever the sage's feet touch the earth, that place becomes softer, kinder. To apply this teaching, we begin by looking at our own daily actions. How do we speak? Do our words wound the hearts of others? Or do they carry the fragrance of understanding? How do we act? Do we take more than we need? Or do we leave space for others to enjoy the blessings of life? The bee never empties the flower. It takes only what is enough. This is generosity in disguise. This is wisdom hidden in simplicity. The practice is to walk through life like a bee among flowers. Every person we meet is a flower. Every moment is a garden. We approach with gentleness. We receive with gratitude. And we leave with reverence. In doing so, we do not only nourish ourselves, we also protect the world's beauty. And in protecting beauty, we are protecting the Dharma. The Buddha knew that the heart of the Dharma is non-harm. Ahimsa, the complete absence of ill will and cruelty. To live like the bee is to live ahimsa fully. Even when we must take something to live, we do so with care, with a mind that says, "May this not harm you." And in that wish lies the seed of enlightenment. In the bee's wings there is a silent song. It says, "I am here to share life, not to take life." The sage's alms bowl says the same. "I am here to receive what you offer freely. I will not demand. I will not injure. I will only accept what is given from the heart." In this way, giver and receiver both feel joy. When we listen deeply to this verse, We hear more than a lesson in external behavior. We hear an instruction for the heart. The Buddha is not only telling us how to walk, how to take food, how to act in society. He is telling us how to keep the mind pure while moving through a world that is often full of clinging and greed. The bee does not come to the flower thinking, "This flower belongs to me." The bee does not compare one flower to another. It does not say, "This flower is more beautiful. I will only take from this one." The bee simply goes where there is nectar. It receives with gratitude. Then it moves on. This is the spirit of non-attachment. In our practice, we can imitate the bee's mind. When we receive a gift, whether it is food, a kind word, or help from another, we receive without clinging. We do not store it in our mind as a debt someone owes, nor do we use it as a reason to feel proud or superior. We let it nourish us. Then we let it go. This way our heart stays light. Our journey continues without burden. The sage on the alms round is not thinking about how much he will get. He is not calculating the value of each offering. His focus is on walking mindfully, on radiating loving kindness to all beings he meets. If a house gives much, he smiles with gratitude. If a house gives little or nothing, he smiles with the same gratitude, because his heart is fixed on the Dharma, not on gain or loss. This is a very high practice for us in modern life. We live surrounded by ideas of possession, success, accumulation. We measure worth by how much we own, how much we can hold on to. But the Buddha's teaching here turns this upside down. He is showing us that true richness is in the way we move through life without harming anything, without damaging the colors or fragrances of others' existence. If we look closely, this verse also teaches us about restraint in speech and action. A bee can gather nectar gently because it knows how to land softly. It knows where to touch and where not to touch. In the same way a sage knows how to speak so as not to hurt, knows when silence is better than words, knows when to step forward and when to step back. When we lack mindfulness, even a small word can be like a sharp thorn tearing a petal. A careless action can crush the fragrance of trust in someone's heart. That is why the Buddha tells us to move gently, to be like the bee, mindful of every contact, mindful of the effect we have on others. If we think of life as a vast garden, then every interaction is a meeting with a flower. Sometimes the flower is open and bright. Sometimes it is closed and shy. Sometimes it has been damaged by wind or rain. Our role as practitioners is not to judge the flower, not to force it open, not to pluck it for our own use, but to be present in such a way that our presence itself becomes sunlight, becomes rain, becomes a condition for that flower to thrive. A bee never forces the flower to bloom faster. It accepts the flower as it is in that moment. Likewise, the sage accepts each person as they are in that moment, without trying to control or reshape them to fit our preference. This acceptance is a deep expression of compassion. We can also see in the bee's behavior a lesson on balance. It does not stay in one flower too long. It does not rush away too soon. It knows the right measure. In our lives, balance is also essential. Too much attachment and we harm ourselves and others. Too much avoidance and we fail to connect. The middle way is like the bee's timing, staying just enough to share goodness, then moving on so that life can flow naturally. And in this moving on, there is no sense of loss. The bee does not cry for the flower it leaves. It knows there are many flowers ahead, and that each one will give its own nectar. This teaches us to trust in the abundance of life, to know that letting go opens the door for new blessings to come. From the Mahayana perspective, this verse is not only a guide for the sage or monk, it is a living image of the Bodhisattva's path. The bee's way of gathering honey without harming the flower is the Bodhisattva's way of engaging the world without falling into the stains of the world. A Bodhisattva does not hide away from life. Just as the bee must visit the flowers to live, the Bodhisattva must enter the villages, towns, and hearts of beings. But in that entering there is deep mindfulness. The Bodhisattva takes part in the world, but does not damage its beauty. The Bodhisattva uses the resources of this world, but never in a way that steals from the well-being of others. In Mahayana thought, this is called remaining undefiled amid the defilements. It is the lotus growing from the mud, yet untouched by mud. It is the bee gathering honey from countless flowers, yet leaving their petals unbroken. The Bodhisattva's alms round is not just walking with a bowl. It is walking with an open heart, ready to receive every opportunity to serve, to help, to uplift, but doing so without leaving behind fear, resentment, or harm. This is why the Bodhisattva practices the 6 Paramitas. The bee-like gentleness comes from generosity that does not take more than needed, from discipline that avoids harming others, from patience that respects the pace of each being's growth, from diligence that returns again and again to serve without complaint, from meditation that keeps the mind steady in all conditions, and from wisdom that sees the interconnection of all life. The bee's gathering is also like the Bodhisattva's use of skillful means. The bee knows how to approach each flower. Some flowers open wide in the morning, some at night. The bee learns their ways. Likewise, the Bodhisattva understands the needs and capacities of beings, knows when to speak Dharma directly, knows when to offer only a smile, knows when silence itself will be the most healing nectar. In our own practice, to live as a bee among flowers means to approach each situation with awareness of what will nourish rather than harm. This requires listening, deep listening, not just to words, but to the unspoken needs, the subtle fears, the hidden hopes of others. The bee never takes all the nectar from one flower. It leaves enough for other bees, enough for the flower to live. The Bodhisattva too takes care that his actions do not exhaust anyone, even in receiving help. The Bodhisattva leaves the giver stronger, more joyful, more open to giving again. If we look at the world today, we see much taking without thought of harm, resources stripped, relationships drained, people consumed by demands. This is the opposite of the bee's way. The Buddha's verse is a reminder that we can live richly without living destructively, that we can receive and give in a way that preserves the beauty and fragrance of life. To be like the bee is also to be unattached to the results of giving and receiving. The bee does not demand that the flower praise it for coming. The bodhisattva does not demand gratitude. The act of serving is itself the joy. The act of receiving with respect is itself the nourishment. In this way, the bee's gentle presence mirrors the Mahayana spirit of benefiting self and others together. By taking without harming, the bee benefits itself with food, and benefits the flower by spreading its pollen. By walking the alms round without harming, the sage nourishes the body, and nourishes the hearts of the villagers with the fragrance of the Dharma. We too can live in such a way that our daily actions nourish ourselves and others at the same time. Every meeting can be like a bee visiting a flower. Every word we speak can be like nectar shared. Every step we take can be light enough to leave the color and fragrance of life intact. When we bring this verse into our family life, it changes the atmosphere of our home. Often without mindfulness, we enter family interactions like a storm. We demand attention. We insist on being understood first. We take energy without leaving beauty behind. But the Buddha is showing us another way. To live like the bee in the family means to approach each member gently, with awareness, with care. Just as the bee does not crush the petals, we do not crush the joy of our loved ones with harsh words or quick judgments. Instead, we draw close slowly, with patience, listening first, offering kindness before asking for anything in return. In daily life, this could mean pausing before speaking when we feel irritated, breathing before answering a child who asks the same question again. It could mean finding the right moment to bring up a difficult subject, not when the other person is tired or sad. The bee waits for the flower to be open before taking nectar. In the same way, we wait for the right moment to share our thoughts. In our work life, the bee's teaching is also powerful. In many workplaces, people compete for recognition, for resources, for opportunities. Often this competition damages relationships, just as a rough hand can bruise a flower. But the bee shows us that we can gather what we need without causing harm to others. This means we work with honesty, without stealing credit, without stepping on someone else's efforts. We seek advancement not by pushing others down, but by uplifting the whole team. Just as the bee's gathering also pollinates the flower, our work can also help others grow. When we deal with customers, clients, or colleagues, we can take inspiration from the bee's quiet and respectful approach. We do not overwhelm people with demands. We offer what we have with sincerity, and when we receive payment, praise, or thanks, we take it with gratitude but without greed. In society as a whole, the bee's way is a call to live sustainably, to use the earth's gifts without exhausting them, to take water, food, wood, minerals, but to do so with deep awareness of their source and with the intention to give back. If the bee took all the nectar from every flower, the flowers would die, and soon there would be no nectar at all. The same is true for the earth. This verse is therefore a teaching in environmental mindfulness. The sage's alms round is a symbol of how we should walk on this planet, lightly, without leaving scars, without depleting what gives life to all. We can practice by reducing waste, by reusing what we have, by supporting what keeps the colors and fragrances of nature alive. And in our interactions with strangers, we can also follow the bee. The bee does not stay in one flower forever. In the same way, we meet many people for just a moment. Even brief encounters can be gentle and nourishing. A smile to someone in the street, a kind word to a cashier, a small act of courtesy to someone we may never see again. These are like drops of nectar exchanged between flowers and bees in the vast garden of life. The bee does not boast about how many flowers it has visited, nor does it compare itself to other bees. This humility is part of the beauty of the verse. In our own lives, we can serve, help, love, without counting how many times we have done so, without keeping a list of who owes us in return. We let our kindness flow as naturally as the bee's flight. To live this way is to carry the Dharma not just in our mind, but in our very movement. People may not know we are practicing. They may not hear us speak of the Buddha, but they will feel the peace in our presence. And that is sometimes the most powerful teaching of all. When we face conflicts or misunderstandings, the Buddha's verse about the bee becomes a guiding light. In the middle of tension, our instinct is often to defend ourselves sharply, to speak in ways that cut like thorns. But the bee reminds us that we can still gather the nectar of understanding without tearing the petals of another's dignity. To be like the bee in conflict is to first steady the mind. Just as the bee approaches a flower calmly, we approach the situation without rushing. We listen deeply to what is being said. We listen even more deeply to what is not being said, the hidden hurt, the unspoken fear, the longing for respect. When we listen in this way, we can respond with words that soothe rather than inflame. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. The bee does not ignore the needs of its own life. It still gathers what it must to survive, but it does so in a way that maintains harmony. Likewise, we can protect ourselves, set clear boundaries, and still act with compassion. We can speak firmly without cruelty. We can say no without anger. When dealing with difficult people, we remember that every person is a flower with their own color and fragrance, even if their petals are closed or bruised. Some may have been hurt for a long time, their beauty hidden under layers of pain. The bee does not reject the flower for being less bright. It simply moves with gentleness. Sometimes it takes nectar. Sometimes it leaves without taking. This teaches us that not every interaction must lead to a gain for us. Sometimes the practice is to walk away peacefully. The sage's alms round is a model of patience, moving from house to house, not knowing what will be given, yet always keeping a calm face, a grateful heart. We too can walk through difficult relationships without demanding that others change on our timetable. We continue our practice. We continue to offer kindness. And we trust that the seeds we plant will grow when conditions are right. Over time, this way of living changes us. We find that we are less reactive, less eager to prove ourselves right, more interested in preserving the beauty and fragrance of the moment. We realize that winning an argument is far less important than keeping a heart free from bitterness. The bee's way also teaches us the art of leaving things as beautiful as we found them, or more so. When we depart from a conversation, a workplace, a home, a friendship. May it be said that our presence left no wounds, only a little more light, a little more warmth. If each of us could walk through the world in this way, the village of life would be full of flowers, and every being would have enough nectar to live. This is the vision the Buddha offers in this verse, not just for monks and sages, but for anyone who wishes to live in peace, to take only what is needed, to leave the colors and fragrances of life untouched. And so we practice, step by step, word by word, like the bee among flowers, gathering only what sustains our path, giving in return the gentle pollination of kindness, until one day, the whole field of life blossoms in harmony. Thank you for watching my video. Namalamitpa. I wish to bring this merit towards all disciples and sentient beings, all of whom will attain Buddhahood. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I really appreciate your time.